Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Now, we're going to turn away from the Flying Christmas Patsy, the Rogue Network, and Obama's response there, too. We'll continue that in the second hour. But right now, we've had a big development this week in Iceland. We know that the British, the Dutch, the IMF, and the bandits of the European community, the European Union, have been attempting to blackmail Iceland to pay $6 billion to the bankrupt Gordon Brown of Britain and Balkenende of The Hague. And we now have got the news this week that the president of Iceland has refused to approve this sellout, and this is now going to probably throw the entire issue into a referendum where the people of Iceland are going to be able to vote about this. The question being, do you want to mortgage your future and sacrifice your children, your education, your health system, and indeed your energy future to the demands of those rapacious and predatory London and Dutch banks? Now, for a quick rundown on this, we're going to turn to Þórarinn Einarsson, who's our friend in Reykjavik, Iceland, who's been a protagonist fighting along these fronts now for many months. Þórarinn, welcome, first of all.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, now look, here's the task. We got about 10 minutes, 9 minutes now. Can you please give a good summary of this situation for somebody who knows absolutely nothing about Iceland and needs to be brought up to speed as fast as possible?
Well, yeah, this has been a very big issue the last years, especially, and the Parliament has been trying to pass a bill that acknowledges a state guarantee to pay up enormous so-called debt to the British and the Netherlands. And, of course, people here have not been very happy about it. It's, of course, it has to come from their own pockets, and that is enormous amount. So people have been protesting, and in the end, the last bill that passed the Parliament in the end of the year, it was protested, and we gathered some signatures, about 60,000, and so we passed it on to the president, and so the president has the power to have a referendum on a bill like this, and that was the case, and it's probably the first time ever we are going to have a referendum through this kind of process. So of course,
when is that referendum? The referendum is when?
It's not decided yet, but it's probably going to be in the end of February or early March.
Okay, so we've got a couple of months now for a big international campaign. We got January and February, maybe, huh?
Yes. So it's kind of important now that we get the unity in the Icelandic nation. That we will have a big no, and
big no
with a clear message saying that the Icelandic nation is not going to pay so much.
Don't pay anything. And again, I recommend debt moratorium, and I urge people to campaign for debt moratorium. That will essentially skew the entire debate to a realistic level, right? Don't talk about percentages of GDP or any of this stuff, but just know this is blackmail, this is crime. I believe it was the British who declared Iceland essentially a terrorist state as part of this process.
Exactly. Well, the opinions vary here in Iceland. Some people just say that we have to pay, and we are, we are just supposed to pay. But there are many that say that, well, we cannot pay it, and still more say that we should not pay it. It's not really, our fault, our responsibility. We have kind of like these free riders of the financial system. They take the risk, and if they crash, it's always the people who have to pay. And so we have to give a clear message, to the world that we are not putting up with this system anymore. And I'm really hoping that the Icelandic nation can send the first clear message. It's a very good opportunity for a whole nation to stand up to the, international or financial system. And I see this could be the first step
It could be, and I would urge people, if you're in the Philippines, if you're in Indonesia, if you're in Argentina or Brazil or anywhere in the world, this is your fight. In other words, this is what has been done here is they took private debts of private banks and turned around and said to the Icelandic government and the Icelandic people, those private debts are your debts, even though there's not a shred of legality in it. There was no government guarantee so far, and the proof of that is they're trying to make a government guarantee now retroactively because there was none to begin with.
Exactly. Well, it's a bit complicated, but it's when the government took over the debts. No, I mean the banks. They paid only Icelanders they got their accounts, but not to the Netherlands and the British. So that was one angle of the dispute.
Yes.
But anyway, it's not fair at all and not technically possible.
It's like saying to the U.S., you owe us $7 trillion, right? The Iceland being 1/1000th of the size of the U.S. So think everything is 1,000 to 1. It's an unbelievable blackmail.
Yes, it is. And of course, I think this has nothing to do with the governments of Netherlands and Britain wanting to have their money back. It's not a big amount for them. It's more like the eventual game of the financial elites who wants to tackle the economy of a country, to get their influence, a grab on nation's economy, like where they have done elsewhere, and especially successfully in the third world.
Right.
Now they have their tools here in Iceland. The IMF is here doing their damage, but the plan here with ISAF, this dispute, is to sink Iceland with debt that they cannot pay, and so they're in a position later to get a hold on our resources and to curse us in many ways.
Exactly. The idea is to make Iceland into a colony, a plantation. I'm thinking back to the Falkland Islands down in the South Atlantic, which were owned by a private company. Maybe there'll be the Iceland Company, founded between Holland and London, and there'll be the Iceland Company, and everybody in Iceland will be a slave to the Iceland Company.
Yeah, we can see these signs already that even individuals or private groups are trying to buy up like energy companies here in Iceland, and it's going to be cheap for them, and especially in the future when we have difficulties to pay these debts, they will open more and more opportunities for these kind of investors under the protection of the IMF and pressure. So this is what we are having, really.
All right, wonderful. Here's my proposal. We've got maybe 2 months. We might have 8 weeks. We might have more. We might have 10 weeks. I would like to formally invite you, Thorarinn Einarsson of Reykjavik, to come on this radio program every week for 10 minutes and give us a campaign report, a mass struggle report, a mass strike report. I know you go to all of these demonstrations. Half of them are organized with your help, the better ones, and give us a sense. In other words, Americans have got to learn how to fight the banks. Iceland has come a long way in learning about this, right? You've had a kind of a mass strike process going on there since September, October of 2008, so it's getting on to almost a year and a half. You've had calls for debt moratorium raised in the parliament. You've had all kinds of things. So can you come back next week and every week thereafter with a report from the ground in Iceland?
Yeah, I should be able to do that.
Wonderful. We're going to look forward to it. And again, it's important for Americans to learn, fight the banks. Iceland has shown the way. Thank you, Thorarinn. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes.